Gonna show you the benefits of the new Betamatic 4 here using CV routing with a Hamu ModPanel 12, which is really cool. I'm really excited to show you this stuff. That way, you can do it with control voltage instead of using a lot of the combinator and the programmer stuff, which there's benefits to. So here we're looking at the ModPanel 12, which is basically just you take the MIDI signals and you route it into the ModPanel 12, and then it sends control voltage messages to all the other instruments or utilities to affect stuff from there. And below I have MX Splurgers, which is split merger by Hamu 2. These are free utilities that are on, or also called instruments. I think the mod panel is actually considered an instrument on the Reason store, so you can get those for free. I think he passed away, so they're giving it all away for free. And it's cool because this is one of those guys who's a techie kind of geek who programs really amazing software, but he doesn't necessarily perform or play music all that much. So this is really cool stuff. And this setup here, since the last setup, I put another keyboard in the mix. So when you see me jamming live, you'll see an additional M Audio Oxygen 8. In this video, I actually have an Edirol keyboard that's here above the nano control that I'm going to be using. But yeah, whatever. Right now, I have this Hamu set up to actually control all the mix levels, and basically I got rid of the mutes because before I had mutes down here and I was controlling going back and forth from the lightsaber sources, synthesizers, using the knobs. Now I got rid of all the mutes, so there's no mutes at all on these buttons. It's basically just a keyboard pad. I used to have some sample triggers too, but I'm not doing any of that anymore. Yeah, I'm just going to do it from different sources, I think, just to make my life easier. Before I had, a volume fader, and then have the synthesizers go from one to another with the knob, but I figured out that I don't like playing like that. I like having two faders for my synthesizers right next to each other, volume faders, so I can bring them up and down as I go. I don't want to sit there and turn a knob and then have the volumes all screwed up, because that was one of the problems doing it the other way. So this way I can have my two faders and then have like multiple knobs for controlling the cutoff and release. And if you notice up top, I have some knobs set up for the Vox Clean, which is up here. That's the knob 1. Also, and then the knob 2 and 3 are arpeggiator knobs. And there's bipolar and unipolar key buttons here that I enabled. So that kind of comes in handy when you start messing with this stuff. And I have a couple of arpeggiator buttons I have set up here. I'm actually going to be using those on the play and fast forward button, which is kind of crazy because when I start the music from my Betamatic, it's the Reason is a slave. I never use the digital audio workstation as the master MIDI, so I don't. So in case it locks up or something, it doesn't screw up any of the other boxes or other people playing music. So I always have it playing. That being said, I changed all these buttons to momentary keys to trigger stuff with. So instead of using it as like a MIDI machine control signals, I'm just using it as triggers, and that comes in pretty handy because I was gonna make these like sample pad triggers, but you can't actually make these in the notes on the Nano Control for whatever reason. And I'm going to save setting up the nano control for a different video at some point, but right now my vocal channel fader is number 1, and if I want to, I can turn the knob and go into a vocoder. It's that easy. So usually when I'll be jamming, I'll have this on the vocoder for the most part. And then because if I'm jamming and I have the clean sound coming through, it'll just blow up the system with feedback, because you got to be real careful with that. Channel 2 and 3 are my lightsabers. So right now, like, nothing's playing over it, but I can play the keyboard on my nano control to play number 2. And then so I dedicated number 3, this lightsaber, to my other additional keyboard, which you can hear there. Right now, I actually am controlling the cutoff, resonance, and the feel all from this one controller. So it's cool. So if I go out and perform and I don't feel like, or I don't have room to haul another keyboard around, I can just do everything from this one controller. So I'm gonna get an arpeggiator going here, and my arpeggiators are in 2 and 3. So if you notice the knobs up top, when I move the arpeggiator 2 knob, you'll see that moving there. And what this is actually doing is controlling the matrix patterns up here. So when I move that knob, you'll see those matrix patterns turning. And what I do is just have when I have it turned all the way to the one side, it has nothing, just an empty pattern, so it's not sending any CV messages to the synthesizers. So I'll bring in that right now. Let's see. Here we go. Ready? So number 5 is my feel knob. Attack and release just gives it, that longer sound. Number 6, my cutoff. And number 7 is my resonance there. So if I bring in, I also have the same type of setup on my other synthesizer. So if I bring that in here, so if you notice, I am controlling both areas. Because the one synth is on the left and the other synth is the one on the right, you can see there. And as I spin number 3, you can see that matrix off to the right is actually changing. So it actually has the same kind of setup. So if I just turn it off for now, or I'll leave them going, have them both. I can have them both going. But what I have here on the splurge mixers, you can see that when I turn number 6, the cutoff, you can see these little colors lighting up. So what you do is route CV from the controller into this input, and then the input goes into these other two. It goes into these outs. So whenever you have something that's up, like below or above, they will either split or merge on the splurger. So I could actually put another output on the left of this output below the input, and that would also get the same signal. So if you notice, both of these are getting the signal, And you'll probably notice that this green one off to the side over here is actually getting the same signal too. And before I go any further, I just want to tell you about how CV works. And I'll give you an example using the subwoofer channel here. Number 7 is my subwoofer channel. You can hear it come in right there. If we look on the back here of the panel, or the rack, Reason calls it, I'm going to hit K, which will get rid of a lot of that cable clutter. Select the Mohu or the Hamu mod panel here, and you'll see that the sub channel's right here. This is the vertical fader. It's hooked up to channel 2 on the PA mixer and the CV. So if we scroll up, we'll see that right here. This row, okay, so you got your audio inputs above. Then the lower row is for CV, level CV in. Also one for panning if you want to do that. I'm not going to do that. One of the main things you got to realize is that you want to always have your controller. Okay, so in this case, the fader on the mixer, you got to have it at 0. Okay. Otherwise, the controller won't work. If you have the fader up and the fader on the Mohu down, so the mixer fader up, okay, it's going to route that audio through, even though the Mohu is all the way down. Okay, so if we turn the mixer fader down and the Mohu down, then there's nothing. But if we turn the Mohu's fader up, then you get your mixer level up. And it works the same with these cutoff and resonance that I was just showing you guys. So in this situation, when you connect one of these rotaries to a cutoff on a synthesizer, usually your cutoff, you'll be cutting out the high frequencies, so you'll be turning it counterclockwise. So when you set up the synthesizer, you want to have your rotary on the synthesizer, which is, you can see it up here on the Thor. You want to have that all the way to the right or clockwise turned, so that when you turn it on the knob, it's going to turn it down just like that. So now you can see my cutoff knob on the ModPanel 12 is controlling Thor's rotary. Vice versa for resonance, it's the opposite. Resonance, usually you turn it counterclockwise to turn it up. So there it is. So if you have, let's say you put your knob halfway over, and then you take the Mohu and adjust it. A lot of times you'll notice, and in this particular situation it doesn't do it, but if you hooked it straight into, say, this Europa, if you have this filter, let's see, I'm gonna try and demonstrate this if I can. Okay, so it's hard to see. It doesn't move, but it's actually controlling it. Let's see if I can give you an example here. Let me try and get a different... Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, here we go. Let me get a better sound here. Alright. So you'll notice that the knob's not actually moving. I'm actually routing right into the CV input on the back from the splurger. the weird thing is, the way I have this set up is that when it's all the way on, when this is all the way on and you bring down the knob, it's not moving, it's not controlling it. You bring the knob all the way down on the synthesizer and you turn the rotary on the mod panel now, it works. So it's just something you got to keep in mind when you're doing this stuff, because there's both positive and negative control attributes on this stuff. So if for some reason you hook it up and it's not working, just keep that in mind, that's why. Really quick, I want to show you how. So now we're getting back to the splurger here, and I'm going to show you why these colored ones on the out is actually controlling this green one over here. Because what I'm doing is actually controlling both synthesizers from the splurger. We're going to go to the back. We're actually going to see that there's these toggles. So toggle it goes from here to the in, straight up here, and then it combines with this one here, and then goes to that Europa down here into the CV in. Now, why do I have it like that? Well, this other one that's coming in to the toggle is actually the cutoff of that additional keyboard. So when I'm programming, the coolest thing about this is I can program this all from my office, which is really nice. I like programming it in my office. I got the big computer. I can sit at my desk, and then I can move it into the Betamatic like really easy just by copying it over to that computer. And I actually have 2 nano controls, and they're set up identical. So as soon as I move it over there, it's ready to go. If I'm going to have a performance where I'm not going to have that extra keyboard, I'm going to have it set up like this with the toggles. But if I'm going to have my extra keyboard, I'm just going to delete the toggles. So there's one for the attack release, there's one for the cutoff, and there's one for the resonance. So now I am completely unlinked from the nano control, controlling my secondary one. So I have no control. Now I should be able to control it from my other keyboard. And there it is. That's really nice too, and I like to keep those separate so that, let's say I make a really cool bassy sound with this, I still have that clean sound on my other keyboard. And I still have the same setup for my drums, but I'm going to show you something really cool. Right now my drum mute is on 8, and my matrix, my sequencer controller, is all set up on 9. What I like about that is that I get to be able to bring in, the matrix is bring in the pattern on the downbeat. So here, there's the downbeat. So I make sure I never bring it in off downbeat. Scroll up here to the matrices and the red drum. So before I had another, an Octa or a Dr. Octarex, but now I just have the red drum, because I found that I really like using the sounds in the red drum because the velocity controls are really sweet in it. I can make them sound really kind of like lively in there. I'm going to show you something really cool. So in this particular drum kit, I have this nice just regular beat, and then if I change the pattern will actually go to different areas on the reed drum. I don't know, some people call it red drum, some people call it reed drum. If I scroll down to these other patterns, it turns off all these top patterns. You'll notice that the velocities are all off on those, and then it has these playing down here. So you basically just have like the notes going across, and then every once in a while you'll have the beat come in with these velocities. And the way I have this set up is actually running this CV directly from the matrix CV going right into the gate in on the reed drum. So that's how the reed drums getting played, is from these matrices, and these are in the unipolar setting. Yow! What's up? Hope you enjoyed this tutorial video. If you want to watch the full video, please visit jvond.com. Full videos over there. You don't want to miss the end where I bring in all the backing tracks, that like for live instruments when I perform with bands and stuff, like full bands. It's huge. It's all on the video. Be sure and check it out at jvond.com. And yeah, there you can subscribe there too. You don't have to necessarily dedicate everything to this particular hosting site, because they've deleted my videos in the past, so they could just terminate my account at any time. So don't forget, where home base is, and we'll see you over there.